All right, welcome once again to United and Everything Football Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope you've been enjoying all the podcasts that we've been bringing you. Today, I'm joined by my very good friends Kwame Ntribu and the two Musketeers, Mr. Sistov of Moscow.
Yeah,
today it's multi-city. So one is in Hamburg, one is in Accra, one is in Kumasi, and one is in Moscow. This is United and Everything Football Podcast, coming to you from different cities. But guys, how are you doing? How is Hamburg?
I'm doing great.
How is Hamburg?
Fantastic.
Are you hosting any more games, or your games are done?
That's the thing. I'm not so sure. I'm not. I don't have access to tickets. I'm pissed off. So I don't want to know.
Mr. System.
Every price has gone up now.
Every price has gone up now. I mean, it's normal with tournaments. I mean, people try to hike stuff. It's very, very normal. Not surprised at all. Mr. System, how is Moscow?
Well, so currently I'm in Krasnodar, but Moscow was great. Sochi was brilliant, and now in Krasnodar is amazing. Every city in Russia is different. Every city feels like a different country, different vibe, different setting, but the people are lovely. So friendly, so accommodating, so inviting. Fantastic. And I guess I chose the right place to be for the vacation, because everything I've heard about great. Russia before now is nonsense. Yeah,
that's great. More on the Russia experience. We'll talk about that later. Akumia, how is Osei Group?
Ashtown is good. Rofrom is good. Sorry is good.
Perfect. That is home. That's actually home.
Home is good.
You know, interestingly, all four of us have some history with Kumasi, so it's normal. Sicho was in school in Kumasi. Yeah. I lived in Kumasi almost all my life. Kwame lived in Kumasi all his life. Akumia is still based in Kumasi, so it's normal. Guys, guys, thank you very much for coming. Today we have a lot to discuss. We'll be discussing, but before I go, who can tell me the year United wore this shirt?
97, 98?
No. You know what? Let me make a quick turnaround. When I come back, I'll ask the guys again. Which year did we wear this? But we have a lot to discuss. We are discussing the new structure that is set. It's finally set. Everybody is in place now. We'll be talking about that. There is Marcus Rashford. His issues still lingering. The last time this fourth set of us were here, we talked about Marcus Rashford and his issues with the abuse. But it's taking a different turn. Not the abuse, but it looks as if a discussion is ongoing about that. We will delve deep into that. And there's a lot more in the Euros to discuss as well. And then what is happening to Brazil, and has football fallen off? Sicho has always been of that opinion that football has fallen off. But we will delve a lot more into that when we come back from this. Always remember to hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell. Leave your comments, like the videos, and share them with your friends. We'll be right back after this. Did I just say I was going for a break? Wait. There's a breaking news just before I go for the break there. Now, Erik ten Hag's contract has finally been extended. The announcement from the club has come in, and it says that Erik ten Hag extends United contract, and that's what it says. And Erik ten Hag has some few words to share on that particular situation. He says, Erik said that I am pleased to have reached an agreement with the club to continue working together. Looking back at the past 2 years, we can reflect with pride on 2 trophies and many examples of progression from where we were when I joined. However, we must be clear that there is still lots of work ahead to reach the levels of expected of Man United, which means challenging for English and European titles. In my discussion with the club, we have found complete unity in vision for reaching those goals, and we are all strongly committed to making this happen together. So that's Erik ten Hag. Now, the sporting director, so these are the first words of Dan Ashworth, the sporting director of the club, and this is what he also had to say. He says that with 2 trophies in the past 2 seasons, Erik has reinforced his record as one of the most consistently successful coaches in European football. While the club's review of last season's highlighted areas of improvement, it also reached a clear conclusion that Eric was the best partner for us to work with in driving up standards and outcomes. The group of players and staff are already shown they are capable of competing and winning at the top level, and now we need to do it more consistently. With our strengthened football leadership, take note. With our strengthened football leadership in place, we are looking forward to working hand in hand with Eric to achieve our shared objective. So that's Eric Ten Hag's contract extension being formally announced by the club and Dan Ashworth. We won't discuss that particular situation because we've said a lot about Eric Ten Hag's contract situation and the official announcements coming in. But what we are discussing, or what we are going to discuss, is the strengthened football leadership that I'll be doing with my guys, Kwame Nchubuesiakos, Philip Sichofer Atrim, and then Michael Akumia, the Messiah. So we can quickly make the quick turnaround now. We can quickly now go for the break. When we come back, we discuss everything here on United and Everything Football. All right, thank you very much. This is United and Everything Football. Does anyone have an answer for me now? 97 is out. 90, it's 93, 94.
94.
You wouldn't wait for all of us to shoot. Why did you wait for all of us to shoot?
93, 94, yeah.
I intentionally raised my color. You know why? You know why I raised my color?
Eric
Cantona, the king.
Eric.
I'm feeling all like a king. All right, guys. All right, okay. Guys, let's delve straight into the issues. Sicho, I'll start with you. The system, the team is set now. So Omar Barada takes over in a week. Dan Ashworth has started work officially. Jason Wilcock is in position. And then we have gotten a recruitment director in Christopher Vevell, formerly of Chelsea. Just spent like 7 months at Chelsea. There was quite some interesting politics there that led to him leaving. I mean, after Todd Boehly employed him, he employed 2 more new directors of football, so his position had to be reviewed. I'm not too sure what exactly happened. There are rumors of things not aligning very well, so he had to leave, and they placed him on a long gardening leave, and it's over, so he's okay to work. We know him very well for his work at RB, the RB group from Leipzig to Salzburg, and the kind of talents that he's on net. So that's the team. The football structure is in place. Eric Ten Hag's contract is likely to be confirmed in the course of the week before the team returns next week, and a few more things. What is your general expectation of this new football structure that we've put in place?
Yeah, look, I'm expecting it to run the club like a football club. When you run an entity like a football club, you look at the sporting side and you look at the business side. For a very long time, when it comes to business, the club has done well because the Glazers are proper businessmen. But when it comes to the sporting decisions, what players will fit what plan, and if there is even a plan, the sporting side, it hasn't worked. So when you look at the structure, the new structure that United have put together, my expectations of this structure is to run the club to be as successful as it's been in business. And the good thing is the Glazers are still there. They'll pull the American plugs. Ratcliffe is coming to take over the sporting side, if you like. And that is what we've seen in the framework. So now this new makeup can really focus on the sporting side and get the club to be competitive like City, like Madrid. And when you hear Ratcliffe speak, he's speaking about United becoming the new Real Madrid. United having a stadium that can become the Wembley in the north. This is what the stature of the club is. And all of these things are sporting yet business decisions. So I'm looking forward to them. As I said, running the club, the entity like a sporting club where the signings are apt. Changing managers doesn't necessarily mean an overhaul in squad. The progression of signings can be seen, and the quality that they churn out from the youth side as well can complement what the senior side is, so that you can produce your own Trent Alexander-Arnold, you can have your own Phil Foden's, your own, Rico Lewis, and many more other players that we've seen. More Kobe Mainus, and you saw it, like the class of 92, we saw how brilliant they were over the time. And that is Manchester United. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how they deploy that. I'm looking forward to see how, because some very experienced guys there. I'm looking forward to see how they all stick to their rules and not clash, yet deliver a wholesome if like a wholesome overview of what the club is supposed to be like on the sporting side.
All right, Kwame, I'm projecting how the structure is going to look like. Now, I'll put the two together. The old structure, which looks a lot more interwoven. I mean, a lot of reporting lines, and then there is the new structure that this has been designed by fans. I mean, based off on reports that has come that this one is reporting to this one is reporting to that. So that's the new structure. You have seen it. How much of a difference is this, and how much of an impact do you think it will have in the grand scheme of things?
I don't think the structure is the problem because, in as much as one looks a bit complex, they're actually the same. It's rather the personnel, the people who occupy the roles, that is vastly different. What Ineos did come in and say from the off was that Manchester United needed to operate like a football club. And one telling statement that Sir Jim Ratcliffe made was he came to meet more accountants at the club than actual football people. We set up this whole structure a few years ago, I think about 3 or 4 years ago.
2018 there.
Yes, but then we occupied it with people in-house, I call it family and friends. We just promoted people who were already in the club, pushed them in positions, and these people didn't have the know-how in terms of they didn't fit the roles that they were actually put in. They were rather supposed to sort of learn on the job. And that's what's been going on at this club for quite a long time, ever since Alex Ferguson and David Gill walked away. All that the Glazers have done is handed the keys to the man who helped them get the club in the first place, that is Ed Woodward. And all he has done is sought his friends in and around him and given them positions down the line. So irrespective of the fact that we did finally accept that we had to become a modern club by setting up these kind of structures, we did not occupy them with the right people. So now I think what Ineos have done is what they've always said they were going to do, appoint the best in class. When you look at the background of the people who are occupying the roles now, fans don't know anything business about any of those people. All we know is they were either at Manchester City doing this, they were either at Southampton doing this, they were either at Leipzig doing this, and it's all football related. It is not accounting, it's not some banking background from 10, 15, 20 years ago. They are pure football people who have come from clubs who have been very successful in recent times. Even if you come all the way down to the head of recruitment we just appointed, this is somebody who has worked in a multi-club system before. Chelsea wanted to be that, and then they employed him, but then unfortunately, I don't know, everything at Chelsea just doesn't seem to go as it's supposed to. So he found himself not working for them anymore. But then to even pick him up this late and complete the set of people that they actually did want to appoint, from CEO to sporting director to technical director to head of recruitment, all these roles have been occupied on time. Right on time. It was very crucial that they got them in as early as possible. I just keep saying to fans, we shouldn't trust them, but we should give them a chance. We should be patient enough to see what they have for us. I think we have been scarred by the past decade. There's a lot of PTSD going on, fans referring to them as Glazers 2.0 and whatever. Let's just be patient. But from what I see, everything that they said they were going to do, it wasn't just word of mouth. They are actually doing it. From the training ground to changes at the stadium to sorting out the coaching staff and improving it, to improving the structure around the club in terms of people, the football people who would make proper football decisions at the right time, for the right price, for whatever. They seem to be doing exactly as they promised that they're doing. So they're on course.
All right.
Kudos to them.
All right.
So far.
Okay. Akomia, the Ashworth deal was done this week. I was listening to David Ornstein on the Athletic podcast, and Newcastle had no choice. We played them into a very tight corner. We thank God for the PSR thing, and it actually had to be a significant step for Newcastle to escape the major points deductions before the 30th of June deadline. And as a result of that, we're able to get things done. All their it's let me use the Ghanaian language, the Kokuti had to come down at some point, and then they had to find a way to, accept. So Dan Ashworth is in. But I have seen tweets of you always having issues with Dan Ashworth. I would say always having issues, but you've had some slight doubt. What's your thoughts on Dan Ashworth coming in? He's known as a club builder, seeing the work he's done with the English national team, done at Brighton. And today I discovered that he was actually the guy who brought in Yankuba Mente to Newcastle United. And then now those two had to be the people saving Newcastle United and all of that. What's your thoughts on Dan Ashworth?
I think I have an open mind when it comes to Dan Ashworth, and I wish more or less things could work out for him when it comes to getting the best out of the club and with enough resources being the backup points to help us.
Yeah.
I think in the long run, where we need to be looking at is the kind of talents that are brought in, because we are not that particular kind of club that buys and sells easily.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing in such academy players to come and help the senior players might be good one way or the other in terms of achieving results in the near future, where we can promote some of them to come into the senior team and come and play. But as it stands, where has the project got into? What kind of players are you bringing in? Is it still going to be the Moises Caicedo and McAllister kind of signings? Because these players will need like 1 or 2 seasons to gel. Does this particular club has the patience for these particular players to develop? Then you also look at it from another angle. If you are bringing in players like Mitoma and Co, Manchester United is huge than Newcastle. It is huge than Brighton. That is why I had my issues with Dan Ashworth in terms of how he's going to handle the kind of things that will go on.
Yeah.
And I also saw his coaching appointment. You look at the likes of Gary Southgate helping the English national team acquire. You look at Sam Allardyce. Most of these guys, they are basically average coaches.
But not to hold brief for him. I think I don't know if we've discussed before. If I remember so well, at Brighton, he said when he came in, Tony Bloom had already appointed Graham Potter. When he got to Newcastle, the man was already there. Eddie Howe was already in place.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when he got there, Eddie Howe was
surprised.
there. Eddie Howe was
I'm quite surprised because I've seen an interview of Dan Ashworth speaking about how much time he gave Matt Hughes. Was it Steve Bruce, right? How much time he gave Steve Bruce?
No. Then I'm sure it's a different interview.
For both managerial appointments at Brighton and Newcastle, they were already in place before he got there. He was late. He was always a late appointment when it came to working with those managers.
So when it comes to appointing managers,
talk about the English national team where
he doesn't have experience.
Yes. So with that particular aspect gone, you expect him to make a mark for himself at a club like Manchester United.
Sure.
Now, I would say Manchester United is a university for him because he has been at junior high school, he has been at secondary school. Now, you are coming to the university. So the university will prove whether you deserve to acquire your master's or you deserve to acquire a PhD. And he can make a name for himself at Manchester United or disgrace himself at Manchester United. It's 2 things. And this club, everyone wants to exploit it. No, the first time I've heard people keeping secret between the two of them and Manchester United is Newcastle's deal with Dan Ashworth joining Manchester United, where both of them believe that it is confidential.
Yeah.
But every single club will love to release something when it's about Manchester United just to get attraction and attention of various supporters. Because I believe some of our supporters are very fragile.
Yeah.
You look at how they react to certain Manchester United. Whenever there is a news out, look at the reaction. So he needs to be getting us those Sandro Tonelli signings, not necessarily in terms of character, but in terms of quality.
Yeah.
He needs to be getting us good signings like Isak.
That
is the kind of level we are talking about. Because these guys will definitely improve Manchester United when you add them. And he brought them from leagues where these guys were dominating. These guys were best players within their clubs.
Yeah.
That's the things we are looking for. So I'm sure this transfer market wouldn't be the fair kind of first transfer market to judge him because he's fresh like 2 or 3 months. So I think subsequent ones will prove to us whether he's ready to help us or not.
All right. So that's Akumia's position on Dan Ashworth. I think it's clarified. If you've seen him
No,
tweet about, yeah,
that's
Sijo.
that's the thing about why Dan can be very successful, because he's not coming to Manchester United at a time where it's like Ed Woodward almost had a final say on issues, and the people around him couldn't maybe challenge it or didn't have enough know-how to help. Because when you've got Jason Wilcox at your level, and you've got Omar Barada, you are reporting to him, and you've got Christopher Vivell to work with. It's not a Dan Ashworth show. So they can all help in shaping the ideas, and they can all help in saying, can you have a second look at this player? We are not sure. Can you have a second look at this model based on the experience they've got around them? Two things can be true here. It can be helpful or it can be chaotic. But with the experience that these people have got in working in structures that they've worked in, I'm leaning towards it being very positive. Because when Dan offers an opinion, he's got people who have got sharp brains, who have done this over and over again, to give him another opinion, to have a look at it, maybe then collectively find a solution.
Well, that's a very
just to add to Citro's.
Kwame, well, let Kwame make his point. Kwame.
Okay.
Just to add to Citro's point, the bigger the club, the bigger his taste. When I say that, what I'm trying to say is, when you're at Brighton, you make certain signings to suit Brighton's model. As in, we know what we want to do. We want to sign players for little or no money and then sell them for bigger. Yeah. The aim is not to probably win a trophy or go to Europe. That's not the aim. When he went to Newcastle, he spent a lot more on individual players. Isaac went for, God knows, 60, 70 million pounds.
Yeah.
He's never spending that money on one player. Exactly. He's never spending that money on one player at Brighton. Same way he would go to Manchester United, and the expectations at the club are different. If you listen to how he wants to operate, just like Citro described it, he's not this one-man show. He's not. There's a reason why we have a sporting director and a technical
when
director.
When you finish, I'll go for a break and play a video of Dan Ashworth explaining how a sporting director works. Just make your point, Kwame.
Yeah, so it's just to buttress exactly what Citro said. He's not a one-man show. It's going to be, he's the connector, you know. The technical director is supposed to work in this particular window. Before the appointment of Dan Ashworth, the word out there is Wilcox is going to be in charge of overseeing the recruitment for this summer.
Yeah.
And if you listen to how Ashworth loves to work, he's not directly going to look for players. It's the job of the recruitment team, the technical director, and the coach to sort that out. But he's going to sit down at the table and make you people come to an agreement as to what you really want or who you really want. Not this one says this and this one says that and this one. He's there as, like you properly described it, he is the connector. So when you look at his role as sporting director, it's not like the normal role as sporting director as a Monchi going to look for players and all those kind of things. It's slightly different from the conventional.
All right.
You get it? So
Akubia,
he's a connector of the club, I think. Yeah, that's just it.
Akubia, I wanted to chip in something before Kwame came in.
Yes. I think Citro spoke about something like around being chaotic or something of that sort. The proper case study, I don't know how Chelsea fans sees it, but me at times I see the structure of Chelsea with so many recruitment heads. You have sporting director, you have this, you've gone here, you've picked this person, you've brought him in. Sometimes it looks so chaotic because it looks like they are after every single signing. Unless they don't hear about this player, they are there. And it looks like a child who is having so many options, having so many toys around him, yet still, he also requests, give me Lego, give me this, give me that. They don't even know what they are doing. I don't want things to be like that at Manchester United. And I'm really surprised you are getting Christopher Vivell because he left Chelsea.
Yeah.
And the reason he left Chelsea was because he felt they were not listening to him. That is why he's joining Manchester United. I'm only praying and hoping that it works and it doesn't become chaotic like these people they are doing.
Yeah, I think it will work. A little bit more. I think that's what I'm leaning towards it working, because at Chelsea, Paul Wayne, Stanley, and the rest, when you look at their profile, so their portfolio description, co-sporting director, co. Now, when we have co, what it means really is we share the office.
Yes.
And for Christopher Bivell, that was exactly the problem he had. But when you look at the structure Man United have got, every single one of these big brands have got an office. Now, we don't know how well they can own the office and how well they can avoid overlapping duties. That the future will tell. But Chelsea's structure is a different ballgame. It was so chaotic. There was no real clarity about duties and jobs. So there's a mess. And I've said Chelsea's project is a joke. It's always been a joke for me. But when Man United have put on paper,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think what United have put on paper makes sense. But now let's see how it works.
Yeah. So
just on the Chelsea thing, just on the Chelsea thing. We have so much to talk about. I hope we have enough time. Just on the Chelsea thing, what went into Chelsea spending this much or going on this crazy spending spree that seems to have no end is what went into the sale process. Roman Abramovich asked that the club be sold for a certain amount. I think 2.5 billion pounds. I'm not really so sure. But then what happened was, in addition to that,
it has to be an investment.
Whoever was supposed to invest 1.5 billion pounds in players, the female team, the stadium, all of that. And that is exactly what Boyle is trying to do. And what I see from a distance, I don't really get so much into their issues. Everybody is in there trying to grab something and spend that part of that money. That's just how I see it. Like, it's just a pot of gold that is there, that the money must be spent, and they are spending it. Because from what we are hearing, the ownership process at Chelsea means that in a few years' time, Boyle would have to hand over to another person.
I think by 2027, he has to hand over.
2027, yes. So all I see is the money in football is crazy and it's silly. That money is not his money. Everybody wants to ship some. These deals that are happening with all these agents, have you seen the amount of money Chelsea pay to agents? It's ridiculous, off the scale.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Money is passing all sorts of places because the money belongs to nobody. It's not Boyle's money. It's his group of companies' money. It's not his money. Anyway. So the money must be spent somewhere.
After the first where
United doesn't have that luxury.
So much money. Yeah, as for the first season where Boli was spending so much money, he's taking a backseat now. Egbali's also started spending more. Charlie, forget about
everybody's chopping.
Everybody's playing with that.
At United, we don't have that luxury. We don't have it. We are struggling with PSR and FPL and whatever. FFP, whatever.
So that's it. So United, the reporting lines are quite clear. There is Umar Barada, the CEO. There is Dan Ashworth, the sporting director. There is a technical director who is going to work hand in hand with the coach to help develop the game model, how the team is supposed to play, how the team is supposed to be fashioned out and all of that. Then there is a recruitment director who is going to help identify talent with the recruitment team. I mean, that is so clear in terms of how the description is. And everybody has who they are reporting to. The technical director and the recruitment director all report to their specific lines. And I'm not too sure how complex that situation is. And modern clubs I tend to operate that way. And the coach will also be coaching his coaching. His veto has not totally been taken away from him. He would have a say in the transfers. When the list is presented, he would also say, okay, I want this player. Why don't we then? But now there are voices. At first, it was just him and John Mertog and whoever. And now there are bigger voices who are going to say, we are saying no to Anthony. See the way they are haggling around Gerard Brantwaite and the likes, that they are not going to pay that kind of money for Gerard Brantwaite. And that's not the true value of the player. That's what they think, and that they won't pay that money. So Everton can go to hell. All of that, you know? All right, so that's it. Let's delve straight into transfers. Situ, I've not had your take on transfers. Just give me 4 minutes analysis of what you've heard so far. Joshua Zexi, Gerard Brantwaite. As it stands now, the fastest moving transfer, I think, is Matthias de Ligt. We did a bit of discussion of de Ligt here, but it looks as if he's going to be a United player from the way things are moving, from the player side, from between the club to club negotiations, as we read, is going quite well. What sort of a player do you think he will be for United?
It's one of those that can be a big hit or a big miss. And that's not because he doesn't have the talent. is simply because his body hasn't held him over the years. Martin Delete was he's supremely talented footballer, but he's had his own injury worries. And I saw him at Juventus.
Yeah.
He went to Juventus at a time where the thinking for Juve was he was going to be the next leader at the back for them after Bonucci and Chiellini, who were fading away.
Yeah.
It wasn't to be, because even while he was there alongside them, he had to still play Chiellini and Bonucci a lot more, because the young man first, he didn't adapt early.
Yeah.
And second, when he settled, injury set in for him.
Yeah.
And as a footballer, when you go into a club and the expectations are that you're the next leader, the next big thing, it comes with pressure.
Yeah.
It's not as if you can't take the pressure, but when your body's not allowing you to get onto the pitch and find your rhythm, you suffer it. Now, for every single time I've seen Delete play and not play well, it's as a result of him not having a consistent run of games or any rhythm or whatsoever. Because you can see a good player there. You can see a player who, when he's fit and when he's sharp and when he's had games in his legs, he can be a world-class defender. But would he ever be fit enough? Would he ever be fit enough to get his body, going? That is where the question marks are. And for United, you're in a very precarious position now, because you can't afford to make a signing who won't be an instant impact, right? If the league comes to Man United now as a big defender for the club, and he's not fit, he's not playing well because he's not settled, because he's not had games, then that is a huge setback for the club. So that is where my problem is, or my question marks are.
Yeah.
How fit can he be? And if he stays fit, can he settle in time to give United what they have? Otherwise, then it's back to Maguire and whoever.
Well, that's Sicho's take on that. Kwame, we do want some 2 minutes to top up, because I think the transfers we won't be doing a lot more, because we've discussed it extensively from last week. Before I go for my break,
I'm trying to warm up to the Matthias Delete thing. You know why I have had my doubts about this. It's just the injuries thing. It's just, I don't know why we are getting rid of an unfit Varane, and we're going to buy another player who is almost always struggling with fitness issues. But someone drew my attention to the Odegaard situation at Real Madrid. You know, he came to Arsenal around the same age as Delete is moving to Manchester United, 23-24. He was a 16-year-old who was touted as the next big thing.
Yeah.
He went to Madrid very early. He never really settled at Madrid. Had his bouts of injuries as well. Had so many loans. Eventually, I think he ended up at Real Sociedad for the last season before he came to Arsenal, and then everything just kicked off for him around the age of 23-24 years old. So you could have a budding talent who breaks onto the scene so early, too early. Matthias Delete was captain of Ajax at the age of 18-19.
Yes.
Yeah, that is it. He had a world at his feet so early. You would think he's probably played football for like a decade, but then he's only 24 years old.
Yeah.
He's not even in his prime yet. So you're hoping that all these things are like the part of his early forms of development, and that when he does settle in as a footballer, been through some of the best football clubs in the world, from Ajax to Juventus to Bayern Munich, he's had the education. He's seen it all. He's played some of the biggest games in the world. He's played Champions League semi-finals on a couple of occasions. He's a big game player. If he brings all these things, all this experience and everything to Manchester United, and he's able to stay injury-free for the price that he's been touted to be coming to United for, I think in the end we may look at this as a steal and go like very similar to Odegaard. How did Arsenal get him for, was it 35 million pounds?
Yes.
That's what basically we hope to see in a year or two's time, and go like, how on earth did we get Matthias Delete, a player who went for 70 million pounds to Juventus, a player who went for, was it 56 million pounds to Bayern Munich, for just under 40 million pounds, and he's an absolute steal. That's the way I'm hoping to look at things right now, and then let's just hope that I actually comes to fruition. I don't know.
The other thing about Delete too that I worry about is his body type.
Yeah.
Right? Most of the injury that he's had, if you check it, he's not breaking his ankle, he's not breaking a bone, he's not getting the most horrible knee injury or something. But most of the times, it's muscle issues, especially at Bayern Munich and at Juventus. You know, he's had a little problem with the knee before, but most of the time, he's had muscle injuries. And players of his body type, normally when you begin to struggle with your muscles, it becomes it's like Kalidou Koulibaly when he was playing at Napoli, he had his whole muscle injuries, came to Chelsea, ran through his career. There are players like that. And I really hope that at Man United, if they sign him, that is not the problem, because I see a genuine quality talent in him.
Okay.
But can he stay fit?
That is the problem. All right, guys, I'm going for a quick break. When I come back, would move away from the transfers. There is a lot more to talk about on this. We have a lot to discuss, so we'll move away from that. So we are going for a quick break. When we come back, we discuss the Marcus Rashford issue. I'll start with Akomia and we'll delve straight into that particular situation. We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, go on, Joe.
No, I was just thinking your job now is becoming increasingly important at clubs as the workload's coming on. Like, give us some sort of idea of your day-to-day things. Like, what do you do week to week leading up to the games, and how much involvement do you have on match day with the gaffer and the players?
Yeah, so technical director's role is always best described as sort of looking after the interests of the club in a medium to long term. My job is not at 12:30 today, tactical systems or anything like that. That's Graham's job. He's the head coach in order to do that. So there's 6 things that come into me. So there's men's first team, women's first team, player recruitment, the academy, medical and sports science, and the player loan department. So all of those are sort of, some medium to long-term things, such as medical, such as player loans, such as the academy, in order to try and make sure, of recruitment, of course, as well, in order to try and make sure that the club is sustainable. We spend our money wisely. We open up pathways for young players to come through the system. And that's one of the things that was really important to Brighton.
All right, so we are back once again on the podcast. Thank you very much for joining. So I just had to play to you the video of Dan Ashworth where he explained how a sporting director works. I've played it in my previous United Today and a few of the podcasts, but I just had to bring it back so you understand the kind of person he is and the work that he'll be doing. But guys, let me start with you, Akomia. Marcus Rashford. The news is that the club is not actively selling him. But if a good offer comes, they will accept it. And if the player wants to leave, they will all agree and the player will go. But the club is not actively selling him. That's the situation. But what do you make of it?
Rashford is 26 years.
Yes.
He's yet to even reach peak years in football. Peak years start around 28, 29. Then you enter, if you're lucky enough, you can even get it up to 31. And you look at even most players who travel from even the 31 to 32, 33, 34. We saw Luka Modric, even at his peak years, was around 28, coming in 29, 30, then 31, 32. We've seen a lot of top players, apart from Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, who did not change from the age of 19 to where they are now, still vying for things. Those two people, they are aliens. So you put them aside. What they can do with the ball and what they can do with consistency is quite different. But I think Marcus Rashford is about to hit his peak age. And that should be something that one way or the other, he needs to also pick himself up. I won't blame the club for willing to sell him. I won't blame him for also willing to leave, because it has been one way or the other. Sometimes he feels, because he's an academy lad or something of that sort, there are a lot of abuses towards him. And I agree with him if he feels like leaving the club is going to set him free. Number 2, you look at the club. The club also feels like, Marcus, you give us 30 goals this season. The following season, you give us 15. Then you come back to 30 goals again. Then you give us 15. And your body language is not actually good for us. And I think Marcus Rashford should start taking responsibility. This is one thing I expect Dan Ashworth to do with. Sit him down and talk to him. Now we have a proper structure. This is not a coach's job alone. The technical director, the sporting director, even the head of it, someone should sit that boy down and talk some sense into his head. With his brother being the agent. He has so much quality in him.
His brother is no longer going to be his agent. Let me just put that in. That is what this story is all about. This whole story pisses me off, but it gets my attention.
And you see, someone needs to talk to the guy. When Marcus Rashford is in his mood, I want to use the keyword, in his mood, because he decides when he's in the mood or not.
Yeah.
But if Marcus Rashford is in the mood, he's unplayable. He's unplayable.
Okay.
Difficult to handle.
Okay.
Quick feet. Good goal scorer.
Okay.
But I believe he is not any more younger.
Okay.
And he's becoming one of the most senior players within the dressing room. Not by age, but the number of years he has played for the team.
Okay.
Because since Louis van Gaal's time, I think he and Luke Shaw, because Luke Shaw came during
the senior most players left currently. It's just the two.
Yeah, the senior most. So you need to start taking responsibility. Lead the lines. Let people see a little bit of maturity in you.
Okay.
Be a leader.
Yeah.
I don't want Marcus to leave, to be very honest. I don't want Marcus to leave, but I believe he needs to sit down.
Sijo, Rashford.
Yeah. Look, for his own good, he has to leave the club. And for the good of Manchester United, if they get good money for Rashford, they need to sell him. Look, Rashford doesn't have the personality to be a Manchester United player, to be honest. I think it might sound harsh for a player who's gone to the academy and everything. But in his pro years, Marcus Rashford is a player that is why when he was younger, he performed well under the shadows of players who would be the ones that all the criticisms would go to the team is not playing well. So when he played around Wayne Rooney, when he played around the big names, there was Lukaku who played around them. Then Cristiano Ronaldo came through. When he's had to be the peripheral player, he would thrive. But it's getting into the age, it's gotten into the time where he can no longer be that kind of player. He now has to be a senior player. He now has to be the go-to player. He now has to be the superstar.
Yeah.
And Rashford has always struggled or is struggling to deal with that stature, right? Or that expectations that comes with the stature that he's created for himself. And that for me, I think it comes with mentality. I think it comes with his personality, right? He's talented. He's brilliant when he wants to play, as Akumia said. But to be a successful Man United player, you need more than the talent. You need more than being brilliant. You need a certain level of personality.
Yeah.
And it's painful to say, but I don't think Marcus has got it. And so for his own good, look, he's an academy product, so the expectations on him is more. Yeah. He's a Manchester boy. So what people want to see from him is more. And the moment he's not been able to deliver that, he's unable to deal with the pushbacks that comes back to him from fans and from the reports and whatever. If he steps away from Man United, we can all begin to maybe see the Marcus Rashford we think that Man United should have had. The only problem now at United is he's a senior player, as Akumia has said, and the expectations of a senior player and the characters of a senior player is something that he hasn't exhibited enough.
Okay.
And again, we can also shy away from the fact that maybe the Jadon Sancho issue affects him. They are close friends, we can deny that. Sancho will not stay at Man United. Is he going to still carry that is he going to wear that whole burden on him again for next season? We don't know. So if good money comes in and Marcus also finds a suitable club, maybe the Paris Saint-Germain, if I'm Rashford, I'm taking it. And if I'm Man United, I'm taking it. Because he's not shown for me that he's got the personality to be a consistent player for a club like Man United. He hasn't shown enough of it.
Kwame, you are itching to talk.
Absolutely.
You know, Kwame and Rashford, they are like this.
Absolutely. I think it's an absolute bullock story in the first place. It's absolute nonsense. It should not even come up in the first place. See, let's talk about where this story is coming from. It's coming from Manchester Evening News, written by Samuel Lackers. You know Samuel Lackers very well. Agenda man friend. Samuel Lackers. This is how he worded the story from the beginning. The Marcus Rashford's agency is going to change based on the fact that now his brother cannot represent him anymore. And they are seeking new representation for the boy. And based on the fact that they are seeking new representation, they may look to sit down to talk about his future. And that is where he wrapped this whole, it's possible Marcus Rashford could want to leave Manchester United. I don't think the club is even thinking for a second to sell him, especially this summer. Rashford cannot go anywhere. The reason being this. We lack depth in quality. You cannot take somebody who has 200 goal contributions for this football club out of the club now. I always say this. Over the past decade, the players who have suffered the most happen to be our best players. And do you know why? We don't build good teams. We are not consistent enough. And then all the pressure goes on our very best players. There are only 3 players over the past decade, this past horrible decade, the worst decade in God knows how long in this football club. Only 3 players have had more than 2 consistent seasons in this club. Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial. You can name any any player we've signed. We spent over £300 million on wingers over the past decade. You combine all these £300 million worth of wingers, they've not even scored half of Rashford's goals for this football club. But the burden always goes on the very best players because we have the highest of expectations for them. This football club needs to build properly, build good teams. When you have good teams, see, the class of 98 wasn't the class of 98 just because 8 or 7 or 9 players came out of the academy and they were good. There were experienced players at this football club, very, very good players. We spent money along the way as well to augment their qualities. The pressure wasn't all so crazy on these boys to deliver on their own. That's the beauty of Sir Alex Ferguson. He built all these great teams over time. Ask yourself, Rashford has been under how many managers at Manchester United right now? Ever since he's there.
About 4 of them, from Louis van Gaal.
What are you talking about? About 6. If you consider all the interim managers.
Louis van Gaal, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Jose Mourinho, Ralph Rangnick, and now
Eric.
Yes. So
in how many years at the football club? He's been here for about 8 years, and he's had about 6 managers.
Yes.
It even goes into what kind of coaching is he getting at which point in time in his career.
Some are giving him the opportunity to express himself. Some are limiting him. Some are, I get it.
And yet, despite all this, he has 200 goal contributions for the football club. He's played over 400 games for this club. I always say this, one of the best attributes of any footballer is even availability in the first place.
Yeah.
He's almost always made himself available. Play through broken backs, play through all sorts of injuries, and almost always contributes. Yes, he's had up and down seasons, but who has had any consistency over the past decade? There are very few, and he happens to be one of them. But let's get rid of our best players when Anthony is still at the football club. Let's get rid of our best players when Sancho is still there, when we haven't resolved the Greenwood situation, when Pelishki, we don't know what he hits, we don't know what Ahmad is. It is Rashford that we want to ship out of the football club. When we know, deep down, we all know he can give that sort of season that he gave a couple of seasons again. Can you say the same for all the other players? No. How do we then get...
You spoke about the team building bad teams and not helping the best players in the club. I completely agree. But one thing would have been the excuse for Marcus Rashford last season, because a player like Garnacho, last 2 seasons, had the opportunity to step into the club. Last season, he was a lot better than Marcus Rashford. Kobe Mainoo, the same thing, came into a horrible team. Kobe Mainoo, on his own, a personal level. So there are 2 things here. Bruno Fernandes has played, since he came to Man United, he's played in horrible teams throughout. But his personal abilities, when he plays, you look at Bruno and you're thinking, the team is bad, but Bruno Fernandes looks good. And if it's about the team, now I'm looking at last season, a horrible team, yet Garnacho was promising, Mainoo was promising, maybe Rashford could have been. And that for me has always been his mentality for me. And to excel at a club like Man United, he hasn't shown enough of that elite mentality where when he has to stand to be the man and be consistent, he's not been able to do it. I don't know if he can do it now, and I don't know if he can do it the season that follows. But the club needs more consistent performers than players who fluctuate. And it's the same thing for, listen, Anthony, Sancho, whoever. They can't be the yardstick for who stays at the club or who leaves. If the club wants to compete like City, like Liverpool, it won't happen overnight. But if they want to compete like City and Liverpool, Anthony and Sancho can be the benchmark. And surely Rashford can't be the benchmark, even though he's got some quality in him. In a more serious club, Marcus Rashford is another option to be a winger and not the starter, right? He doesn't start at Real Madrid, doesn't start at City, perhaps, because of his inconsistency. That is what I'm looking at.
Let me answer your question from 2 angles. I've never ever believed that Marcus Rashford should be the number 1 man at Manchester United. I've said that consistently for years.
That's true.
I always say this, ever since Marcus Rashford broke onto the scene, he has almost always played with a senior figure who is supposed to be the focal point, the main man. When he broke into the scene, I think it was Wayne Rooney,
yes,
followed by Zlatan Ibrahimovic, followed by Romelu Lukaku. The fact that Manchester United decided to go into a season after Cristiano Ronaldo had to leave the football club and they did not sign somebody to replace him directly was an issue. some way, somehow, Marcus Rashford rescued that season for us with his numbers.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So the point is, we should not put ourselves in that situation anymore. Then there's the likes of Garnacho there.
No, but at 26, he's surely going to be the main man for the foreseeable future.
No. Listen, you can have a group of very good forwards, of which Marcus Rashford can be one of them.
All right.
When I look at Manchester United, I expect us to have 6 forwards who step onto the football pitch, who can deliver, not just 1 or 2. When you look at our setup now, even with the squad that we are going into the season, from the rumors we're hearing, the Zexis and the likes, I'm still looking at only Marcus Rashford as the guy who can probably give us some level of consistency. And that's the problem. That is exactly the problem that I speak of. How come I look at our forward line and I'm looking at just that one guy who can actually do it? And I can't put any...
Why can't Marcus Rashford be the Vinicius Junior of Man United?
I can't put any best... It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. I'm saying I shouldn't be looking at a team that has 6 forwards. And I cannot expect anything from a Højlund who costs 70 million pounds. I cannot expect anything from a Zexi who's going to cost God knows how much. I can't expect anything from an 85 million pound winger, a 73 million pound winger from Dortmund. That's my problem.
Okay. All right.
And it should never ever be like that. Then there was the issue of youthful exuberance.
Let's wrap it up.
When Rashford broke onto the scene, he was young, he was fresh, no pressure, no burden of expectation. When you're young, you play free. When you are young, you play free. Garnacho is playing free right now. What I don't want for Garnacho, I'd say the same thing because I said the same thing 6-7 years ago for Rashford. What I don't want for Garnacho is for him to be growing up into a team that we don't build a proper team, we don't add better competition. It's competition that brings even the best out of players. When the likes of Nani and Ronaldo were developing, it was Ryan Giggs that he was competing with to training every single bloody day. The best of the very best. They bring out the best in you. He's coming against a Gary Neville, against a Patrice Evra. You know what I'm saying? In training. When you come to Manchester United, Garnacho is basically playing against bricks. He's playing free right now. But if you don't provide that level of competition for him, in terms of even forwards to compete with him, in terms of people he would even train against defensive-wise, he's not going to get better. And in a few years, this whole thing will turn around again and be like, how come Garnacho isn't that guy who's delivering consistently all the time? It's because we're not building very good teams all the time.
Interesting. All right.
The likelihood that these players will fail is higher if you're not going to build consistently good teams over a period of time. That's the problem.
Well, Rashford. Well, the fact that we have to go back and forth around all of this issue about Rashford says a lot about the character Rashford, but that's it. And about the character or the institution Manchester United as well, because I feel the points are valid. The club hasn't helped. The player too hasn't helped. Of course, there's been a fluctuation, but I mean, there's a lot more to. If we should talk about Rashford, it should be a whole show. Because Kwame has a lot of things to talk about Rashford anytime we bring. I remember the last time we had Godfrey Akoto and Kwame had a lot to say. Anytime, the last time the two of you were here, Kwame had a lot to say. Today, he still has.
I'd always stand up for one of our own because we spend so much money. So much money.
I mean, I get
every single time. It's currency that has to come to our rescue.
It's true.
Every single time.
Anyway, let's. So that's with Manchester United. Let's get to the Euros as quickly as possible and see what is wrong with Brazil. Sijo, what's wrong with Ronaldo? Is his time up?
There's nothing wrong with Ronaldo. He's playing very well, and even in the game where
Ronaldo is playing very well.
I think he's playing well.
Have you seen the straight face? He's saying the thing like
no. Look. You see, Ronaldo has always been judged by goals.
Yeah.
When you watch the way Portugal plays, Ronaldo is linking up, play very well. What he hasn't had is a Portuguese team that is struggling to break down teams that are sat deep against them. And against Turkey, we saw them. Turkey were very high up the pitch. They were very expansive, and Portugal broke through them. But all the other games they've played, teams have been compact. And the biggest problem with Portugal isn't Ronaldo. The biggest problem with Portugal is, for most of their creative players, they take too much time on the ball and their inability to break down teams that are compact. And that has nothing to do with Ronaldo. When Ronaldo receives the ball and links up well with the wide players or the midfielders, it's been brilliant. How many times has he not held up the ball and sent the ball out for people to run onto? How many times has he held the ball and brought others into the game? And we saw that against Slovenia when they played against them. It was the same.
Wasn't he doing? Let's stay on that game. Wasn't he doing too much in that game? I mean, taking free kicks.
So
someone is like, if we had left him to take the goal kick, he would have gone to take it.
Listen, and the free kick matter is exactly where I want to talk about. What I want to talk about. There isn't any player in that Portuguese team that has any reputation for taking free kicks. None, like zero. Like the starting 11, those who are on the pitch, nobody has any reputation of taking free kicks. There's only one player who has. Which player?
Bruno Fernandes has been taking free kicks for Manchester United.
He's not scored 5 free kicks in his entire career. Hang on. He's not even scored 5 free kicks in his entire career. That is not reputation. He has no reputation.
But Ronaldo has played over 60 free kicks. He has only scored 1.
Akomia, if Ronaldo has played 60 free kicks and has scored 1, and Bruno has been taking free kicks for Man United and has not scored 5 free kick goals in his career.
To understand this part of the argument when it comes to free kick within the Portugal team.
Yeah.
Now, you are the same person telling us that this team is failing to break teams down. Number 1.
Yes.
And they are struggling. So I would say key chances will come through set pieces in and around the penalty box in that area.
Hang on. I want to stay there. Stay there.
Sir, don't let me continue.
No. No, before you continue, I want to stay there. But there's something I want to point out. Portugal, at the start of this competition, have always had free kicks in these positions. You see Ronaldo's 10 free kick that he played from the wide area. One of the reasons why Ronaldo maybe took it, I don't know, but during these competitions, Portugal have had tons of corner kicks, tons of free kicks where they could in-swing or out-swing. Bruno, Vitinha, Bernardo, all of them have hit terrible balls into the box when they are crossing them. Terrible. Nobody's speaking about how bad. Nobody's speaking about how bad Portugal have been at taking corners. Nobody's speaking about how bad they've been at taking in-swingers and out-swingers. Guess who takes the out-swingers and in-swingers for most of the time? It's Vitinha, it's Bernardo, or Bruno, the 3 of them, right? But nobody speaks about it. What I'm saying is, when you've got Cristiano Ronaldo in your team, unless you are Bale, James Rodriguez, Lionel Messi, or any other player who has got great reputation, and when he was at Real Madrid, we saw it. When he went, even at Juventus, Dybala was taking free kicks alongside Ronaldo because Dybala had the reputation of doing it. Even Pjanic, at some distances, was taking free kicks alongside Ronaldo because he had the reputation. I'm saying that Bruno Fernandes doesn't even have 5 free kick goals in his career. Bernardo Silva runs over free kicks for Julian Alvarez to take.
Bruno doesn't have 5 free kick goals in his career.
He doesn't have 5 free kick goals in his career.
For Sporting CP, where he used to score a lot of goals, playing their set pieces, playing their free kicks.
We'll verify that. The next time we'll confront him with the.
He doesn't confront each and everyone with United.
Yes.
Even at Man United, he scored like 1 or 2 free kicks, and he's been taking a lot of them for the club. And you see, all of a sudden, you want Ronaldo, who has over 60 free kicks, to hand the ball to Bruno, because Bruno is what? A magician of free kick. Bro, let's not start that conversation.
Kwame, let me come in.
I could be coming, yeah.
This thing we are discussing here, nobody is talking about Cristiano Ronaldo at Juventus. Nobody is talking about Cristiano Ronaldo at Real Madrid. Nobody is talking about Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United some time ago with the kind of free kicks he was taking. It's about what is happening to the Portuguese now and where he finds himself now. Where Ronaldo finds himself now, he is not that kind of player we saw some years ago. That is one thing these guys are failing to understand. The Ronaldo we knew at Madrid, the Ronaldo we knew at Juventus, the only thing that is still left with Ronaldo is his desire and passion.
That's not true.
But the rest of the things we know that Ronaldo does. Because Ronaldo used to dribble a lot. I'm coming. I'm coming. Ronaldo used to dribble a lot. We've seen Ronaldo score superb free kicks more than this.
Yes.
We've seen Ronaldo do top things rather than even you trying to hype up his link up within the team, which the likes of Gonzalo Ramos and Koku do. These things are basic for Ronaldo.
You can't get played. You can't start
Ronaldo is not even the best player for the Portuguese team at the Euros. He is not. He's not even the best player for the Portuguese team at the Euros.
We have just 10 minutes to go. Let's wrap it up.
You watch Lionel Messi at the Copa America. There are some things Lionel Messi now leaves it for Julian Alvarez and Co. For these guys.
Things like what? Things like
free kicks. Things like
No.
penalty kicks.
No.
Things like penalty kicks. He does it to these guys to play. Even the last game of the competition, he was on the bench, but Ronaldo wanted to.
Yes, he was injured. Messi is injured. How can he play? If you are injured, how do you play football?
Ronaldo would have played that particular game even if he was injured against Georgia.
Okay.
He wanted to start part against Georgia. Start part.
Guys, let's Sicho, make your last point and let's wrap it up.
I'm going to make my last point.
Yeah.
Now, in the just ended season, Bruno Fernandes was the free taker for Man United. Yes, no? Was he?
Yes.
Great.
He and Christian Eriksen is in his taker. Rashford was a taker.
Fantastic. He didn't score.
I'm just chipping in with Bruno stats. He has nine career free kick goals.
Thank you very much, my brother.
That is
Ronaldo has
9.
Okay, Ronaldo has 62.
No, but the problem is the conversion rates. Bruno Fernandes' conversion rate is better than Ronaldo's. That's the problem. That's the problem with the conversation.
No.
It's just taking way too many.
No.
Are we even talking?
Okay. No. I'm saying that in the season, Ronaldo scored more free kicks than Bruno has scored.
This season.
My point is simple.
This season, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, he's got 23. And I'm saying that Bruno Fernandes doesn't have the reputation on free kicks like Ronaldo has. He doesn't. And even in the club that he plays, from Sporting and everything, one of the reasons why he doesn't take a lot of free kicks is because he has never really been the ultimate free kick taker for it. In Man United like this, Eriksen takes, Rashford takes. He's not Lionel Messi. He's not the free kick greats. He's not one of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Sicho, will you agree that there's a point? Sorry. Okay.
Kwame, ask your question.
Will you agree that there's a time where you have to pass on the baton when you are catching on in age? You know what? You pass certain responsibilities off to other people when you are catching on with age. I think everybody would understand if, I've taken 1 or 2 free kicks, it's not working. Why doesn't somebody else try? You've been doing this your entire life where you are always the main man. Sometimes leadership is also stepping aside for somebody else to take on the mantle. That's all part of leadership, isn't it?
No, hang on. So he took 3 free kicks in that game. One, he forced the save from the goalkeeper. The second one, he narrowly missed just inches over the crossbar. There's no certainty that Bruno scored those 2 free kicks. The third one, I agree, was a horrible one. It was a difficult free kick. He should have allowed them to cross the ball for him. But the initial 2, and the third one is what is bringing all the uproar. The first 2 he took were really good free kicks. It was unlucky. The second one didn't end up in the back of the net. My point is, there is no certainty.
Kwame, our time is fast spent. I see you want to ask a question, but let me stop you there.
No, the problem with Ronaldo doesn't even start with just the last game. He's been taking free kicks for Portugal for a long time now, and he's not been converting for a very long time. So the point is, it gets to a point where you say to yourself, especially when the stakes are this high, that you know what? Come on, Bruno, you just surprise. Even the element of surprise.
Bruno doesn't convert free kicks. So
I'm not saying he would convert it.
But if Bruno makes it, okay. But when Bruno makes it, it's more okay. Okay.
All right. Guys, it's okay.
Okay. No, yeah.
Charlie, don't worry. When the football show starts, we will have a lot more conversation on some of these things. Sicho, let me end with you on this show on Brazil. And let's start in on the nature of football now. Ronaldinho has come out to say a lot about football, like the Brazilian team. I listened to Ronaldo speak sometime, and he said he's enjoying tennis more than football now. And and I watched Brazil yesterday, and I kept asking myself a lot of questions. After the game, I was like, let me check the XG to confirm things for myself. And lo and behold, wow.
Yeah. Brazil have got an identity. It's a tradition, the way they play. But in recent years, a lot of Brazilians have moved very early to Europe. So their brand of football has left them, really. Now, the danger for Brazil has been that football has advanced. And so the problem is, should they move alongside the European timetable of how they're developing players and making it technical and getting them to be super efficient? Or should they stick to their traditional way of being adventurous and allow players to express themselves? They've not quite find the thin line between the two, right? Something of what Carlo Ancelotti does. Even though he builds a structure for the technical players, he still gives a lot of freedom to some very exciting players to express themselves. And now, as we speak, Brazil have not found that line between the two where they can be efficient in systems, yet use the natural ability they have on the ball to kill teams. So when you watch Brazil, it's like you're watching any other European side with less technical players, with less skillful players, with no real skill about the way the Jogo Bonito football is played. And that becomes a problem. They have no striker, they have no real spine, and at the moment, they are not looking great.
Kwame, short one in a minute. Why has Brazil become this so stale? I mean, yesterday you watched it, and I was also watching it. It was bad.
Teacher could not have described the situation any better. See, these guys are leaving too early. Have you seen what Todd Boehly is doing right now? He goes to Brazil and takes 16, 17, 18 years. They don't get to know what playing for Brazil or playing as a Brazilian, maturing as a Brazilian footballer actually is. Then they get into Europe and then they are fed all this sort of robotic kind of football. That's how come now the South Americans can struggle against the Europeans.
Yeah.
That's basically why. They've all become European players. And Anthony is not typical Brazilian. I'm sorry I have to use him as a reference, but you can tell that this is like properly shaped European player. There was no fantasy.
You can't talk against my player like that.
Yeah, it is a fact. It is a fact. And then the Brazil that I grew up knowing, the very first tournament I watched in my life was USA 1994. That was the first, and then that's when I fell in love with Brazil.
Your age is showing.
You can. I'm not young. Slowly, you can see all this just disappearing. From the Rivaldos and Ronaldinhos, all of a sudden, I'm looking at Rafinha.
Yeah.
And then Vinicius Jr. trying to do all sorts of weird things. Vinicius is not even typical Brazilian. Kick and run. Like, what is happening? I don't get it. Yeah. I could not believe what I was watching yesterday.
Not to cut you, we could watch Brazil in 98 and in 2002. After all the players are done, they will bring in Danielson to come and give us.
I know, right?
Oh God!
It wasn't just about them winning. It was about how they won games. That's how we all fell in love with Brazil. That's the style.
Yeah.
And it's funny enough, it's the same problem that I think we even Ghanaians are having with our national team.
Yeah,
where players are farmed out to European clubs from.
So our midfielders can't play anymore. Our midfielders can't play.
So young, and they go to Europe and go and learn all sorts of things, and then the fantasy that we know, the agro ball that we know. Completely disappears. Now we don't have ballers. We just have kick and run players.
Let me get to
Suleiman. You just kick and run.
Kwame,
1 minute. The time is up.
At first, you need to watch Santos versus Fluminense.
Yeah.
Or you need to watch Boca Juniors versus River Plate. That was the peak of when you had players that could play at that particular kind of games, dominate for years before they moved to Europe. But nowadays, they play like 1 year with Palmeiras, Fluminense, straight. They are into it.
Bought for 44 million pounds, 50 million pounds.
It's kind of a little bit crazy. But I watch Estevao. Estevao is one of the most talented players I watch for the Brazilian team in the under-17. And you look at him and Echeverri. Look at the part of Echeverri now and look at the part of Estevao. Now Echeverri is even moving to the Olympic Games to go and play. Now you still have Estevao coming to Europe, now coming to play at the European level. Different style, different team.
The time is up. We'll have a conversation on that. Thank you very much for watching this podcast. Thank you, Sicho. Thank you, Kwame. Thank you, Akomia. Remember to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. We are out of here. We'll see you on the next one. We'll be having a lot more conversation on this. I wish Danny was here. We'll bring Danny and other people here to talk about this brand.
That boy.
We'll see you on the next one. Have a great time. Bye-bye.